Hi and welcome to another tutorial from Homs, and today we're looking at the outline text intro tutorial. I have my scene set up the way I want to, pressing 7 and then hitting Shift Alt and 0 to access the camera mode. And now we're going to go ahead and add some changes to the scene. So we're going to go to render and we're going to go to, on the right hand side, we're going to render option, we're going to go to film, we're going to select transparent, we're going to need that for the compositor. And we're going to go to color management and we're going to change view transform from AGX to standard, and that's for the standard colors. Lastly, we're going to go to the render or the output options here, and we're going to go to format drop down box, and I'm going to change the frame rate to 30 frames per second. That's my desired frames per second. Cool. Next we're going to hit Shift and A to access the add menu. We're going to go to the text option here, and I'm going to press tab to go to edit mode, hit caps lock on my keyboard, I'm going to hit backspace and type outline. Cool. With that now, we're going to go ahead and navigate to the data tab for the text options here. That's connotated by this A character. We're going to go to the font drop down box. We're going to go to regular and we're going to search for the font to use. Mine's already loaded, but you will have to search for yours if yours is not already loaded. And I'm going to choose Rubik Black. Very popular font for this channel. I use this font all the time. Cool. Now I have to scale it up with S as a shortcut keyboard, and we're going to go ahead now and convert this to mesh. So I'm going to press F3 for the operation search. I'm going to search for the operation convert to mesh. Cool. Mine's at the top, but you will have to search for yours by typing it in. So I'm going to select it here. Cool. Now we're going to press tab to go to edit mode, and we can see that the outline text is no longer a text curve, it is now a mesh. So we're going to go ahead and press A on the keyboard to select all of the vertices, because we want to get rid of some of this complex topology. The Solidify Modifier doesn't like complex topology. So we're going to, once we select all the vertices, we're going to press X to bring up the delete menu, and then we're going to navigate to limited dissolve. Limited dissolve removes about 99% of the unwanted topology without changing the shape of the said mesh, but we still have to get rid of some manually, and namely this text bar. Let's go ahead and just get rid of some of these topology. I'm just going to go ahead and press X again and only edges and faces, and select only edges and faces, and select only edges and faces. Cool. Then we're going to press C to access the circle select tool. Then we're going to left click and highlight, hold left click and highlight all of the vertices that we wish to select, being careful not to touch others. Cool. And then we're going to go ahead with all of them selected and press F. Cool. So now that the topology for outline is good, I'm just going to go ahead and press 1, staying in edit mode, and we're going to press A to select all of the vertices again, and we're going to press E to extrude. Cool. And we want it to be about here. I think this thickness is pretty good. And then press just type to come out of edit mode and press 7 to go back to the top, and now we have our outline topology. So what we're going to do is go to select modes and press tab to go to edit mode once more, and we're just going to go ahead and select the face select here. That's right next to the edit mode. We're on vertex select, we have edge, and then we have face, and that's the last one on the right. And with that selected, we're going to select the top faces of outline, holding shift while we select all of them. With all of them selected, let's just maneuver the mouse a bit so we can see a bit better. I'm going to hit duplicate by hitting the shortcut Shift and D, and that's going to duplicate the faces. Just going to go ahead and right click, you're going to left click to click out of the duplicate option, and I'm going to use G and Z to lift it up to about this height. I'm going to duplicate it one more time, and hit G and Z to bring it down about here. Cool. Then we're just going to go ahead and press A to select all of the geometry in this selection, and what we're going to do here is go to the keyboard and press P, and that's going to activate the separate options. Cool. So to separate, we're going to say separate by loose parts, and you can find the separate by going to mesh, go to separate here. And what this has done essentially is that it's intelligently determined that whatever piece of geometry is not connected by vertex data needs to be separated into its own object. and so the duplicated objects that aren't connected via vertex data to the other objects have been separated in their own individual object. Cool. Next, we're just going to go ahead and select all of these. Cool. And we're going to extrude them. So I'm going to press tab to go to edit mode, press A to select all of the vertices, and we're going to press E to extrude. Right. We're in face select, so we're not seeing the vertices individually. If we want to see them, we can just change it back to vertices, and we can see that we are highlighting the vertices here. And then press tab and E and do the same for the bottom. And now this completes this part of the tutorial. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and change the materials for these objects, and we're going to change the material settings as well as change some of the origin and transform settings, and then we can move on to the Solidify modifier. So I'm going to select all of my objects here with the box select B, and that's going to select all of them. Once they're selected, let's go ahead and navigate to object, go to set origin, and go to origin to center of mass volume. Cool. For the next part, we're going to go ahead and hit Control A with everything still selected, and we're going to apply the scale. This is the scale before it was applied, and what this is going to do is set the scale to 1. And all of this is good for the texture, because the texture is dependent on the origin point and on the scale. And because we're using a texture for the material, it makes it even more important. So we're going to go ahead and select the middle topology using the middle mouse button to bring the camera down, and we're going to go to material, and we're going to search for the material that we want to select here. Mine is jagged paths. You can use whatever material you choose. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and do two things. We're going to add a new material here, and this is going to be the target for the outline for the Solidify modifier. And what we're going to do here is go down to the backface column, and we want to make sure that camera is selected. Cool. And we want to do it for jagged as well. Make sure camera is selected. Cool. So we're going to go ahead now and just select each one of these. Middle topology, and we're going to select the O last. And then we're going to hit Control and L. This is going to bring the link and transfer data mode. And we're going to link all of the selected items or objects to the active object, which is the one with the jagged material. So I'm going to say link materials, and that's going to link all of them together. Cool. We're going to do the same for the top facing objects and the bottom facing objects for the same material. Let's go ahead and create a new material. Let's make it emission. Cool. And then we're going to add another material, which is the same black that we added prior, and that's going to be the target for the outline. And now we can go ahead and just select all of the other objects here. Cool. Making sure that the O is selected last. Alright, we know it's the active object because it's in the brighter orange. We need it to be the active object. And now we're just going to go ahead and hit Control and L again and link the materials. Okay, now we're ready for the Solidify modifier. Let's go ahead and select this middle O here. We're going to go to Modifier tab, which is this wrench on the right. We're going to add modifier, and we're going to search for Solidify modifier. Just type it in and it will come up, and the Solidify modifier is now active. Cool. So we need to change a couple of things here. We're going to go to normals, and we're going to flip the normals. Good. And we're going to go to materials, and we're going to increase the material offset to 1. Good. And what this is going to do is select the black here. Cool. Let's go ahead and make sure that backface culling is enabled. It should still be enabled for both. In settings, yeah, still enabled. And what we're going to do here is select this. I'm going to go to press tab to go to edit mode, press A to select all of the vertices. I'm going to hit shift and N. Good. And that's going to flip the normals. Good. And we can find that option also by going to mesh and going to normals and flip. Cool. And we can see here we do indeed have this outline, even though the top topology or the top geometry is hiding it. is hiding it. So let's go ahead and just remove this. Let's lift them up so that we can see it a bit more clearly. GX. Alright, and we can see at the top and the bottom as well. Awesome. So what we're going to do here is just going to increase the thickness. Cool. And we can see the outline a lot more clearly. Now let's go ahead and select the other middle objects here, and we're just going to select this one last, making sure the O is the active object, and we're going to go ahead and hit Ctrl and L to go to the linked transfer data, and we're going to copy modifiers. Cool. And all of it's black. It just means that we need to flip the normals for each one of these. Let's go ahead and select them, go to edit mode by pressing tab. You can't see the vertices that we select because of the Solidify modifier, but if we go to Shift and Z, we can see that we are indeed selecting all of the vertices here. Good, that's Shift and Z. Now we're going to go ahead and hit Shift and N, and that will flip all the normals, and they now retain all of the same properties as the first O. And we're going to do the same for the top two. Cool. Let's go ahead and select the O. I'm going to add the Solidify modifier again. Search for Solidify modifier, and with that, let's go ahead and change all of the options. Make sure the normals are flipped. Set the material offset to 1. I don't think I explained this one, but let me explain this to you. So what happens is that we have to tell the Solidify modifier which one to pick, which material. The first material is set to 0, second one is set as 1, so we wanted to pick the black, that's why we choose 1. Cool. So with that, we can go ahead and go back to the modifier, and let's increase the thickness a bit, see what we've got, and it seems to be working just fine here. I'm just going to go ahead and apply this to all of the other objects here. Cool. Let's go ahead and just select them all. And let's go ahead and select the O as the active object, and we're going to go Control and L again to link. I'm going to link or copy rather the modifiers. So all of the modifiers have the similar output here, and we're going to have to do a bit of changes here. Cool. Let's go ahead and make those changes. Alright, so the thickness is a bit off here, so let's just go ahead and change it for each one of these. Let's just put this to 0.4, and you'll have to sort of play about with this a bit till you get what you're looking for, but you'll need to check it, right? Cool. And for the bottom here, we'll probably have to flip the normals here on these ones. So let's go ahead and press tab and hit Shift and N pretty much, and then change the thickness of each one to 4. Alright, so the Solidify modifier is can be very fickle. You'll have to work with it a bit to get your best result. Cool. And this is the one I'm choosing here, and now we have the outline for everything here. Cool, and we can move on to the next step. Okay, we're onto the view layers. So first we have to do some parenting, then we're going to add some collections, and then we'll be ready to move into our view layers. So let's first do some parenting. Let's going to go ahead and select this O at the top and this white O at the bottom. Select the middle O here. I'm going to hit Ctrl and P, and that brings up the parent list or parent menu, and we're going to set parent to object and keep the transformation so it doesn't move to any place. And if we move this by pressing G and rotate it, we see that the top and bottom are indeed parented to this object, and we've already done the same for all of these, so we can move on to the next step, which is the collection. So I'm going to go ahead and select this object at top, and we're going to use the material to select all the other objects with the same material. So let's go ahead and hit Shift and L, and that's select linked, not Control and L but Shift and L, and that's going to enable us to select everything with the same material. object data or other properties, but we're using material for this, and that's going to select all of the objects that have the same material here. Once that's done, let's go ahead and press M on our keyboard, and that's the shortcut to move to a new collection. We're going to create a new collection here. I'm going to call this collection outer characters. Alright, cool. I'm going to create this. I'm going to do the same for the jagged edge patterns. We're going to go ahead and hit Shift and L, and we're going to select by material. Cool. We selected all of them, and that's because we're not selecting the jagged edge but the black. Let me see, we're on the black here, but we really want the jagged edges here. So you want to make sure that you have the correct material selected for this to work. Cool. Let's select the material, and we can see it's go again, sorry. And we can see it selects all the correct material here. And we're just going to go ahead and move these with M again to a new collection, and we're going to call this inner characters. Cool. And what happens from this point on, we don't really want to be interacting with the outer characters. We only want to be interacting with the inners, because when we press around, it's just going to select what's up front, going to make it more difficult. So what we're going to do is go over to the outliner, navigate to the restricted toggles, and we're going to make sure that this is selected, which is the selectable arrow. Once it's selected here, we can go over to the inner characters or the outer ones, and we can disable selection. So now no matter what happens, I'm only going to be selecting the middle, and this makes for easier navigation, and so we don't mess things up that we don't need to mess up. Cool. Next, now that we've done the collections, we are ready to move on to the view layers. So the first view layer we're going to have is the one that we have in front of us. View layers are at the top of the outliner, and we're going to name this to main. So this is the main view layer. Then we're going to go ahead and press this double page item here. I'm going to create a new one. Just copy the settings though, and then what we're going to do is rename this from main to background. So this is going to be our background view layer, and what we're going to do here now is create the background. Because we're in a new view layer, we want to disable things that we don't want to show in this view layer. Now I don't want to see the outer and inner characters in this view layer for the background. I only want to see the background. So what we're going to do here is go to these two tickies here, and we're just going to disable them. Cool. Then we're going to go ahead and press Shift. Let's go ahead and put Shift and S. Let's move the cursor to the world origin. That gives us our snap menu. And then we're going to press Shift and A, and we're going to create a plane. Let's press 0 to go to the camera view, and let's just scale this plane so it covers the entire breadth and width of the camera. That way, breadth and height of the camera. And let's just move it down on the Z-axis a bit so it doesn't interact with any of the objects, right, that we have as text. Then I'm going to go ahead to material and select the material that I want for this. I have it as material 9, and that's this jeans texture, but you can use whatever material you want to. Then we're going to move on to the second view layer that we're going to create, and we're going to just go back to the same double page here. I'm going to copy settings, and I'm going to call this one the first outline. Cool. Or the second outline, sorry. So the first outline is the Solidify Modifier. The second outline is what we're about to do now. And in this one, we don't want the background to show. So first, let's go ahead and move the background to a collection. I'm going to call this background. Cool. Because we can't remove it from the view layer unless the objects are in a collection. Let's go ahead and take off this background here, and it's not going to be visible. We want to go to main, and we don't want the background to show here, so we're going to remove it from here too. Cool. And in this setting now, we're going to go ahead and enable the inner characters again. We're going to need them briefly. Let's go ahead and select all of them together with the box select tool, and let's duplicate them. Cool. Now they're duplicated, we're going to press M on our keyboard, and we're going to send them to another new collection. And this collection, we're going to call this collection the second outline. Cool. Go ahead and create that. And now we can go back to the inner characters and just disable it again, because we need it again, but not now. Cool. So what we're going to do here is go to the Solidify modifier, and we're just going to delete the jagged paths from the O. Good. And then we're going to set a different material here. And the material, let's just pick a material quickly. We can change this in a second. Let's just select this O. It's orange here. Fine. Then we're going to go to Solidify modifier, and we're going to increase the thickness of this O. Cool. To about here or so. This looks about right. Yeah, increase the thickness to about here. And we can see that the Solidify modifier increases the thickness along the normals of the text, but this is exactly what we want. Alright, I'm going to do the same for these as well. So what we're going to do here is just select all of these together, select the orange as the active object, and we're going to go Control and L to bring back our link transfer data, and we're going to copy the modifiers. Cool. We're going to Control and L and copy and link the materials. Cool. And what we're going to do here, we see we have some strange topology here. Let's go ahead and just remove. The first thing we need to do is remove the black from the materials here. Cool, because we don't want the black. Oh, so we don't want the black here. Just want one material for them. We don't really need two. Let's go ahead and just delete them again. Okay, let's just relink them so that we have the same materials. Link materials. Cool. And it's going to go into Solidify modifier and make a couple changes. Cool. So we just go to the Solidify modifier and change the offset to this value here, and that changes it. Like I said, Solidify modifier, you have to sort of tweak with it a bit. Let's go ahead and just link all of them to this U, and just copy the modifier, and we see that we have what we're looking for here, and this becomes the complete outline. Go ahead and save this, and this is all in the second outline. Now we need to go to the wireframe mode, and we need to re-enable the inner characters. Cool. And what that does now is that allows us to parent everything to the inner characters. We're going to parent this to the inner character here, parent this outline to the inner character. That way any animation we do, the inner character remains affected. Alright, the inner character remains in control of this second outline. And use Control and P to bring up the transform, the set parent and set object to the transformation. Then hit Shift and Z to come out of wireframe view, and we can disable the inner characters. So now we have our view layers ready for the compositor and ready for animation. In the last section, we forgot to remove the second outline from the other view layers. By default, when you create a new collection, that's enabled on every one of the view layers. So you have to go to the view layer and disable it. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to disable it from the second outline. Just click this ticky here. We're going to go over to the mid, and we're going to disable it as well. Cool, because we only want the second outline to show on the second outline view layer. Cool. Once that's done, we can navigate to the compositor, and we can find it in the top left. You see this grid here. We're going to select the drop down, and we're going to select the compositor, and that's the option with the 3 stacked papers on one another. Good. And then we're greeted with this empty gray area, and the gray area usually has the use nodes unticked. Because I've already used it, it's ticked already. But when you tick it, you're going to see these two come up, and that is the main render layer here and the composite, which is the output. And that's the basic 2 nodes that you need to render a scene. But we're going to use the power of the compositor now to stack the view layers on each other so we can achieve the 3rd outline. So let's go ahead and duplicate this 3 times for the 3 view layers. Let's change the main to second outline. Let's change the 3rd render layer to background, and let's go ahead and just see what this looks like when we render, and we see the outline. Yeah, pretty fine, nothing else. Let's go ahead and add an option that enable us to stack each view layer on itself, and we need the alpha over, and that looks like this. Let's go ahead and do this. If we connect the first render layer or view layer to the top image and connect the second one, good, we should be able to see the background and the text which is on the main layer. So if we press F12, we only see the background, even though we briefly saw the text on the front. Alright, the reason for this is that, or what we can learn from this immediately, is that the node setup here, the inputs have order. The one that's at the bottom is what goes on top, and the one that's at the top is what shows at the bottom. So we need to flip the order of these, and then we'll see the background with the text as we were intended. And we can see it here. We see the background with the text here. And this is exactly what the power of the compositor is, which allows us to stack view layers on each other to achieve said effects. Good. So what we're going to do, we're going to do that for the third outline. So we need a special node to enact that third outline, and that node, the secret source, is called the dilate and erode node. You're going to type dilate and erode. Cool. And first we have to change the mode to threshold, and then we have to import the masking target, and the target for the mask here will be the second outline. So we're going to take the alpha from this. Cool. And this is what's going to inform how to set up this mask. So what the dilate and erode does is that it uses the alpha channel from the said view layer to determine the mask's position, and then it creates an outline based on that position. So let's go ahead and show you what this actually is in practice. If we just enter into the composite, we can see this is what the dilate and erode node does. The second layer becomes the mask in white, and the back, which is black, which is the alpha, becomes the black part of the mask, right? The part that's hidden off, and then it increases and decreases its scale based on this mask data. So if we go ahead and go over to the options here, and by default it's on CPU, but change this to GPU, we should be real time be able to see this. Alright, and if you have a strong GPU, I highly advise this. It really helps for the rendering of this whole thing. Let's go ahead and move the distance. So we're going to use the distance here to show you how the outline increases based on the mask positioning. So if we just increase it and we look to the right of the screen, we can see how the outline is being affected here. Let's increase it. See, the distance is actually increasing the outline. So now we're going to be using the power of this now to create the third outline here by putting the other objects on top and then letting this scale. So let's go ahead and do that. So first what we need to do is to place the mask into the fact of the alpha node. We're going to detach the main because we're not going to need that for now. Cool. And because we want the background to be the lowest point, the background has to come at the top of the alpha node. Cool. And then with this now, we're going to go ahead and duplicate. With this now, we're going to go ahead and enter this into the composite. Let's show you what we got. And we can see immediately the background is behind and the mask is and the white mask is on top, created by the dilate and erode node. And then what we're going to do next now is that we're going to duplicate the alpha over, and the result of that image, we're going to put that under the second outline. Cool. So now we can see the second outline on top of the third outline. Let me just show it again. So we see the second outline on top of the third outline. We see what's happening here on top of the background, and then we're going to put the main text on top of all of that. Cool. And that would complete the look. And we can see here now we have three outlines. We have the Solidify Modifier, we have the orange outline that we created from the second Solidify Modifier, and we have the dilate and erode node. And that gives us our outline text effect. So we'll go ahead and just press F2, and we can change the color to whatever we choose here. You know, we can change it to a different color. Let's go ahead and just minimize this. We can change this to color, I think we can change it real time. Yep, we can see change real time, change the color, and we can change the amount as well. But I'm going to keep mine white because that's what I had in my preview. Let's just reduce the size a bit here. Cool. So with that done, go ahead and just maximize this, and we can move on to our animation here. Let's go back to the 3D viewport and let's go to the main, and let's work with that. So first we need an empty, so I'm just going to go ahead and just select these texts together. I'm going to hit Shift and S to activate the snap tool. Then we're going to go to cursor to world origin. Alright, and that way when the empty spawns, it spawns in the middle of the text. So I'm going to go ahead and add an empty. I'm just going to make it a sphere, and then we're just going to go ahead and parent all the text to that empty. Cool. And now with this, everything is ready for us to do the animation. Okay, then, like I've done the animation for this already, we're just going to go ahead and show you a graph with the animation, right? But I'm just going to go and show you one of the letters here in terms of how to animate it. Let's go ahead. We're going to be selecting the O here. We're going to go to the transform, and we're going to be selecting the Y rotation, insert a single keyframe. Then we're going to navigate over to frame 37 here. I'm going to insert another keyframe here, but this keyframe is going to be 360. Cool. And then what we're going to do here is go to the frame 14, and we're going to enter in 261. Yep. And insert the keyframe. And that gives us this look here. And then basically we're going to link the animation and stagger for each one of these letters here. So just select it. I'm just going to link animation data, and then we're going to stagger each one of them by 3 frames. Now to come out of it, if we change the animation of any of them now, it's going to change the animation of all of them at once, but we don't want that. So we want to go ahead and unlink them. So you can go to Object, Relations, go to Make Single User, and then go to Object Animation. Or you can apply a shortcut. I use shortcut Shift U. A good while back, Blender had the shortcut for this. I think was U or Control U or one of those. And so I just put it back to what it used to be. Right? But they don't have a shortcut for it presently. So now if I change the animation of one, it won't change the animation of all of them. If I apply this properly, and go ahead again, Object Make Single, and it shouldn't affect any of them at all. So now you just have to animate each one and stagger them by 3 frames each as you go across, right? But you should be seeing a graph now with the animation. And for the empty, it's just a simple rotation animation that matches the outline. Cool. And you should be seeing the graph for that as we speak. Right, and with that now, that's really just the animation of this. Now when you're finished with that, you'll get something that looks like what you've seen up until this point, and this is what it should look like here. Cool. And then you can stagger some of them even more if you choose to. It's entirely up to you, but this is the outline text tutorial. If you enjoyed the tutorial, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, be sure to ask. I'll be happy to answer them once I am able. And also, be sure to leave comments and let me know the feedback about this tutorial. We got tutorials coming in the future that kind of depend on this functionality. I know it's long, but this is also a very complex technique, and we can reference this for other tutorials in the future. So, until I see you again with another tutorial, get up and design a new dawn. Later.